What is the creepiest / most perverted thing you have ever done? This one's a doozy. I remember when my sister's friend would spend the night when I was about 15 or 16, I think. She would sleep in the room across from mine while my sister slept upstairs. I would always lay awake debating if I would actually go through with touching her in her sleep. I knew it was wrong, but I was so attracted to her and felt like this was an opportunity that wouldn't come again. One night I decided to go through with it and went right over to her and checked to make sure she was actually asleep. I tiptoed over to her, nudged her a few good times and started fondling her tits, and I even got one of them out of her bra and started to stroke her nipple. I put it away almost as soon as I took it out for fear of getting caught. When I realized she wasn't gonna wake up, I stroked her ass and massaged her feet. On one particularly adventurous night, I pulled my cock out and put it right next to her mouth, but never got the courage to put it in. I do remember just resting it on top of her head just so I could say I did it. I teabagged her a few times as well. This was at a time when teabagging was at the peak of hilarity to me. With this same girl, a mere few weeks later, I remember spooning with as we watched some shitty romantic movie, all while my sister was asleep next to us on the same couch. I wouldn't count this as creepy, since we were actually enjoying a romantic moment. She was stroking my arm and I would kiss her ear and nudge her warmly every time something cute would happen in the movie. She had a boyfriend at the time, but we were always really close friends, and at the time it just felt like we were cuddling innocently as friends. At one point, she fell asleep on my arm and I couldn't get up, so I just lied there motionless watching her sleep, and I started to get a boner, as her ass was wedged right against my package. I dry humped her a few times, the first actual humps being accidental as I was trying to adjust to get more comfortable. However, as I started to realize what was happening, I continued. I didn't come, I forced myself to stop because I felt guilty, especially considering what I had done to her before. I love that girl and I am definitely not proud of what I did. We're still best friends though, and I haven't told her. I hate myself every time I think about what I did though. I creep myself out just thinking about why I even thought that was okay. I'm glad I didn't get caught though. Just so you know, I regret a majority of these little anecdotes, but I recognize that everyone goes through a period or periods of sexual exploration, and I try not to judge myself. From the sounds of it, we all have inner demons and creepy stories. And mine seem kinda tame, to be quite honest. Is it bad though that a part of me wants to outdo some of these creepy stories? So glad it's all off my chest. A couple more. While buying from an adult site once, I opted to get a free mystery toy. They sent me what had to have been the fucking cheapest vinyl sex doll ever made. Of course, I still decided I'd try to fuck it, and it was not pretty. Some of the corners and seams of the doll were sharp, so I kept on cutting my dick. Not a bloody mess, but it's difficult trying to fuck something like a rag doll carefully. The worst part for me was that I had poured massive amounts of lube into all 3 orifices. I guess it had a hole or something in its mouth, because I noticed when I was on top and applied too much pressure, bubbles slowly started streaming out of its mouth. I deflated it and was terrified somebody would see me dispose of it. So I wrapped it in duct tape until it became a good-sized ball, then tossed it. One of the teens that lived on my street ended up punting it over a row of houses, but I don't believe anyone took it apart. The creepiest I can think of is that I used to come on this one girl I was seeing while she slept. She was a huge tease, and her problem was that getting drunk made her super horny and then suddenly tired. She would be sitting on my lap, grinding on top of me and biting my neck one moment, then she would fall into the spooning position and be fast asleep. There were at least 4 instances where I got creepy. She was one of those girls that would wear very loose jeans, so when we'd spoon, her ass was half exposed and rubbing against my lap. At least 4 times I disregarded morals and would get myself off in that position. It became a kind of game to see if I could land a shot directly onto the top of her ass crack. Seconds after I would have my despicable orgasm, I'd feel sick to my stomach about what I did. But sometime later in the night, after feeling her against me, I'd start back up again. So when I said at least 4 instances, I meant at least 4 instances where I had a small marathon with it. Damn, do I have a lot of these. Hurrah for one and done accounts. I was part of my college's student newspaper, which was big enough to have its own office. I'd stay late there occasionally doing homework and studying. One day, I discovered that my desk in the corner completely obscured everything below my waist from the rest of the room. That same night, one of my coworkers was also staying late. And I also learned that if I stared through the divide between my desk's two computer screens, I could see her sitting at her desk while giving the illusion I was focused on my work. So what did I do with this newfound knowledge? I stared at her through that crack and jerked right the hell off. The thing is, I wasn't particularly attracted to her. The thrill of masturbating to a girl less than 20 feet away was just too erotic to pass up. After the event above, I turned into some sort of bizarre, serial office masturbator. I jerked off in the office frequently, and then smeared it onto the mice and keyboards off all my female co-workers one by one. I also shot a hot, messy load onto the chair of the female editor-in-chief when I thought I was alone in the building, only to pass her heading to her desk on my way out the door. I also used the office's printer to print out nearly 200 Facebook pictures of girls I found attractive. I had very specific rules. Only one picture of any girl was allowed in the stack, and it had to be irrefutably the hottest picture of her available. I took them home with me, and every night I jerked off to and onto one of the pictures, put it on a homemade drying rack, and then stuck it into a private binder in the morning. For a while, I lived with a friend of mine and his super hot sister. We're talking legs for miles, beautiful skin, excellent fashion sense. I jerked off into her lotion, her shampoo, her conditioner, her makeup, her pillowcase, the hems of her dress pants, the pockets of her suit jackets. Almost anything I could get my hands on in the 8 months we lived together. Whenever I'm at a female friend's house, I'll eventually excuse myself to the restroom and jerk off into something I know she'll eventually put on her skin, lotion, shampoo, etc. I keep list of the girls I've done this to and what I came in. Right now, there are nearly 30 names on the list. My senior year of high school, I got big into jerking off to senior pictures I'd collected. Eventually, I started filming myself masturbating on my webcam, with each video following the same format. Start with a close-up shot of the picture I'd be jerking to, pan out to get all of me whacking it in frame, then another close-up of me coming onto the picture in question. The names of each video reflected the girl being used, such as Beatin' It to Brandy, have a few more I thought of. I'd added them in a new comment below, but I figured I'd just edit the main comment. Anyway, here they are. When I was 8 or 9, I discovered the magic of pool jets. Sticking my dick in the jet stream was my first orgasm, so I went to the swimming pool almost every day. Eventually, I figured out it felt even better if I stared at a girl I found attractive when I came. I had no idea why or even what coming was. So I started asking a girl I had a crush on from Sunday school to accompany me to the pool every time I went. She usually did, and never had any idea why I'd swim off, hang off the side of the pool for a bit, then turn around, face her, and smile. I attended a computer camp back when I was in middle school, and one of the days there was spent teaching us basic Photoshop skills. At the end of the camp, we each received a CD-ROM full of camp pictures. Almost immediately after I got back home, I started using my new Photoshop skills to superimpose the head of a girl I'd fancied onto assorted pornographic images. Back in the heyday of MSN Messenger, back when people's profiles were completely unrestricted, I'd snag girls' profile pictures and then stick their faces onto porn as well. The more chaste and reserved the girl was in real life, the greater joy I received from making her do depraved things, such as jerking off 2 guys at once or getting double penetrated. Once Facebook came around, I felt like a kid in a candy store. For about the first 2 weeks after I'd signed up, I did little else besides sit in my room, add girls I'd met, and then use their pictures to shop some homemade porn. I loved labeling each picture in the same fashion as celebrity fakes I'd seen on the internet. In the format girl's name by my name, over the course of the next few years, I accumulated nearly 150 faked images. I'd produced more, but I deleted any that weren't up to my exacting standards. Those that passed the test underwent further modification. I kept the originals, but also created a black and white print of each, as well as a text version, the original picture, but with a sentence balloon containing some graphic dirty talk I'd envision the girl saying. All I've jerked off to in the past 3 years is my homemade porn or collections of Facebook pictures. To date, I've got nearly 2,400 Facebook pictures saved, organized into folders for each girl, and a master folder called Pretties with every single picture in it. The individual folders each have sexual or demeaning names, based on the girl contained therein, such as Love Me Long Time for an Asian girl's folder or Christian Cum Dumpster, For the folder with pictures of an incredibly religious girl, I also keep a log of each picture I jerk off to, including a running total for the number of times I've jerked off to each girl and what picture of her I use to achieve orgasm. Currently, the list archives my last 438 faps, which is literally every time I've masturbated since starting the ledger. I've started videotaping myself jerking off to Facebook picture collections as well, in a similar format as the senior picture thing listed above. I set up the camera to focus on my computer screen, where I slideshow through my collection of a girl's Facebook pictures, occasionally providing running commentary on what I like about the picture currently on display. When I feel myself about to come, I grab a printed out picture of the girl I've been whacking to and lay it down in front of me. Then, I angle the camera so I get a shot of me coming onto the printed out picture. The picture, of course, goes onto the drying rack, then into the binder. Okay, I'm late to the party, but I have one that I will always think back to as probably the most fucked up yet badass thing I ever did. I was 15 and over at a friend's house. We had procured a bottle of brandy and I was getting drunk for pretty much the first time in my life. Well, I had drank a time or two before that, but this was my first time really hammered. My buddy had a sister that was 14 and really hot. I really wanted to get with her at the time and fantasized about her a lot. She was with the parents at some other family function, so it was just my buddy and I at the house getting drunk. Sometime around 10 p.m. my buddy just conks out in front of the TV. So being wasted for the first time and horny for my buddy's sister, I go upstairs to her room. I put on one of her bras and panties, then got into her bed and jerked off and came in her panties. Then I fucking pass out. Like the noob drinker I was, the combination of alcohol and sweet release just knocked me right out. So here I am at my buddy's house in his sister's bed, wearing her goddamned underwear full of my man sauce, and sound asleep in that spot with her and her parents coming back sometime that night. So the sister and parents get home and do their thing and go to bed. The sister finds me in her bed, but I was under the covers. She thinks it's cute that I zonked out in her bed, so she just crawls in with me and goes to sleep. Now I wake up at the crack of dawn with a pounding headache and dry mouth. I'm like, wow, I'm in a bed. Then realize that I'm in the sister's bed, so I think score. Cute sister wants to cuddle up to me. So now I'm thinking maybe since she didn't boot me out of her bed last night, maybe she's into me and I can wake her up and maybe make out a bit before anyone else gets up. I want to go get the nasty out of my mouth, so I gently slide out of the bed, careful not to disturb her, and walk across the hall to the bathroom, where to my horror I find myself wearing her bra and panties. I'm like, WTF, that shit really did happen. So I put a towel on and sneak back into her room, find my clothes and go back to the bathroom to change. I don't know what to do with her underwear, so I go to the garage and throw them out. All cleaned up, I go downstairs, hide the bottle of brandy, then zonk out on the couch. A few hours later, my buddy's parents come down and wake us up and had made us breakfast. I'm sitting at the table and I'm like, thanks for letting me sleep over last night and for breakfast. Then I smile at my buddy's sister, who smiles back, and I think to myself, holy fuck, I am a pervert, a lucky pervert. Edit. For clarity, at no point in the night did she realize that under the covers in her bed with her, I was wearing her underwear.